ready to try again. Is this Elizabeth in England? Please say yes.
Hello, yes.
Hello,
Excellent.
Elizabeth.
Hi, Elizabeth.
We're so happy to have you.
Oh, good, me too.
Okay, so why don't you tell me what it is that's on your mind today?
um, I'm uh, I'm in a very uh, not religious part of the country at all, but um, everybody here seems to have a ghost story of their own, or they know someone who has one.
Okay.
It's just a very old. Well, obviously everywhere's old, but it's there's a lot of bloody history in this town,
Sure.
like, going back to ancient times and World War II and everything.
Okay.
And everyone seems to have a ghost story, and it does freak me out a little bit, even though most of these people who believe in ghosts don't believe in gods, they don't believe in anything else, but
Okay.
because everywhere's so old and there are so many old buildings here. I've got friends whose whole families are convinced the house is haunted and stuff.
And I should note, let me interrupt you just to note that you do identify as atheist, correct? Okay. Yeah. That's what
But
they
that's
say.
the thing. A lot of the people here do.
You can be an
but
atheist and believe in
there's
ghosts.
I don't. I think it's weird when people believe in God and ghosts because they seem contradictory to me. I think it's weird to believe in both.
Okay.
I can kind of because if you believe in ghosts, why do you think a God would like make a system like that where you just
I don't know
wander
why
around
gods
after
would make
death
any
than
system, but
actual creepy. I don't see why.
Okay.
I think it makes more sense to be an atheist and believe in God than both.
So the
But
ghost
that's what most people here
the
seem to
ghost
do.
thing kind of creeps you out. Is that what we're hearing?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're creeped
Because
out by ghosts.
I don't. It's a difficult thing because I don't see it as particularly extraordinary claim because if we don't know what it is, how can it be extraordinary? And if everyone has their own anecdote, it's hard to dismiss as easily as someone rising from the dead. I can dismiss that easily because that contradicts what I know about the universe.
Let me ask you a quick question and just make sure we're on the same page here. If I describe a story to you, if I tell you a ghost story, and then I say, this was my dead aunt who came back and did whatever, and I saw this. Now, are we in agreement that the experience that I had, while I may have lived through something that has convinced me I just lived through seeing my dead aunt come and do something, for me to say that it actually was my dead aunt or the ghost of my dead aunt is not valid because I have no way to confirm what caused that experience. Do we agree there?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I feel like some of the alternative explanations are just as implausible. Like I like you, I've had sleep paralysis before, and when I researched it, I found a lot of stories of people whose whole family had seen the thing that they saw when they were having sleep paralysis. Things like that, like mass hallucinations and things. They seem less plausible to me than some entity. It might not be an actual dead person. It might be some other thing going on.
But these stories I can't verify. If someone says to me, I had this sleep paralysis episode and my parents were there and they saw the thing that I saw, in my mind I'm thinking I have no way to verify what you just told me. Like I have no way to know what actually occurred. I can't go back and see it myself. So I'm hearing a story, and do you understand? Are you familiar with the phrase "the argument from ignorance"?
Yeah.
Okay. What happens there is that somebody does the ghost story and then they say, and this was caused by the ghost of my dead aunt, right? So they're claiming a cause, although they can't really confirm that was the cause. But then someone comes along and says something similar to what you said, which is, but these other explanations don't explain it, and so now I'm still back to the ghost. And the argument from ignorance is when you don't step back and say, you know what, I don't know. The truth is, I don't know what caused this. So they're telling me this story. I don't understand this story. I doubt they're lying about what they experienced, but at the same time, we don't know what caused it. They're somehow convinced that it was the ghost of their dead aunt, but they didn't really confirm that. Like, how could I possibly know that it really was the ghost of my dead aunt? How would I know that?
Yeah, that makes sense. I understand that. I think it's more that it's not that I necessarily think these are dead people. It's more all of the weird things that happen that some people say, oh, that's a demon, and other cultures that's the poltergeists would be like the elves moving stuff around. Every culture seems to have some kind of thing that they describe in exactly the same way. They just put different explanations on it. So it does make me think,
I don't know
is
if
there
they're all the
something out there
same. I mean,
that's
I
making
think
people think all this stuff is real?
I just think that brains do weird things, and that sometimes we experience things that we don't understand. A lot of times we see things that we think are one thing, and it turns out it was something else. Sometimes we see something that appears to be something else, and we might be viewing it incorrectly, but we never get a chance to go investigate, and so we think, wow, I can't believe what I just saw, and maybe we didn't see it. Maybe we saw something that was, looked like that, but it wasn't that. But since we didn't go and investigate it, we don't know. And so we go away saying, I never forget the time I saw a dragon in the woods. Well, maybe you didn't see a dragon in the woods, but you ran away because it scared you, and so we don't know what you saw. And you might have just seen like a weird trick of light on a tree trunk. I mean, I've seen things that I've been really like, wow, that's bizarre, and then I find out what it is, and I thought I saw the silhouette of a person in my backyard. It turned out to be like just a couple of shadows lining up with a bird feeder on top that kind of resembled a head. And I was freaked out because I thought there was a man in my backyard, and I have like a big privacy fence around the yard, so I was kind of tripped out that there was someone standing in my yard, and then I realized it was just silhouette shadows kind of combining to make something that it wasn't.
And people are really suggestible too. Like if somebody else had been in the room and not looking out the window at the same time as you, and you say, I totally saw a person in my yard, and they look out and they may see a shadow, and
or they go outside and a cat goes running over the fence, and they just hear the bustle, and they say, man, I saw something go over the fence. Like I think there was somebody back there. I'm pretty sure I saw them going over the fence. Something went over that fence.
and there's a whole field
That kind of reminds me of something that, I volunteered in this day centre once, and it was very old, and everyone who worked there was convinced it was haunted, like absolutely everyone, and they were all different kinds of people. Most of them were, not they didn't believe in anything else superstitious at all, but they were all convinced, like they'd heard stuff. Everyone there had seen and experienced something weird happening, things being moved, like the whole full-on haunted house. And one of the things they said was like two people, when they were driving up to it, saw this woman in the window at the top when there was no one there. And that was one of the things that freaked me out the most, because they weren't in the house, so it couldn't have been that weird thing that people say, like the some kind of thing in houses they think causes people to hallucinate, but they were actually outside, and that really freaked me out. So I was too scared to go up there.
Well, there is
I would never go upstairs in this house.
Electromagnetic fields can mess with your brain, right?
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah, and old structures have high levels of electromagnetism.
Well, also they make a lot of weird noises. Old buildings make a lot of creaks, and the floors aren't necessarily level.
But I think a lot of times when you see a face in a window, I mean, first of all, we're predisposed to make things look like faces. Like our brain will find faces in lots of things.
It's called
like
pareidolia. We're wired to recognize patterns, and especially faces, because it's a survival thing.
Like reflective light especially can sometimes look like so different when you're at different angles. I think a lot of times when people see something, they think it's a person, they're just seeing like weird refractions of the light. I don't even, and even when there's 3 or 4 people seeing it, that's my first guess. When someone says, we looked up in the 3rd story window, we saw this woman, I'd be like, you probably just saw light reflecting in a weird way off the window.
Yeah. So when you're in a haunted house, supposedly haunted, you don't get freaked out at all?
Well, we live in the U.S. We're not old enough to have haunted houses. I mean, they have claims of hauntings and stuff here. I think people freak themselves out. There's a essay online called Shakespeare in the Bush, and you might want to read it. There's a woman talking about Hamlet to a particular group of people, a particular society in West Africa. And when she gets to the part where Hamlet, which is right at the beginning, where he sees the ghost of his dead father, they stop her right there, because they're just like, what are you talking about? And she has to try and explain the concept of a ghost to them, because they don't know what that is. And it always struck me as interesting that if ghosts really occur, if that's a normal thing for a human to produce a ghost, then why would there be a society that does not understand ghosts, or that has no history of ghost lore?
Does that exist?
Yeah, they're the Tiv in West Africa. If you look up Google Shakespeare in the Bush and read that essay, she goes through a lot of hoops to try and explain to them what a ghost is. And eventually they decide that it must just be some vision sent by a witch, because how else could you see a dead a person that was dead talking to you. They were just like, this doesn't make sense. Dead people don't they
That's
don't do
interesting.
anything. They're dead. So,
I've heard one theory is that it's like some kind of recording. Like I don't fully understand, but I vaguely remember that some people are saying, oh, it's like um, you're looking back in time, like you're looking at what did happen somehow.
yeah,
I don't
the
know how that would
problem
happen.
is they don't really
But
have
like there are
evidence
all
for
sorts
it.
of things that it could be, but I find it hard to just you go for the explanations most people give, like you would imagining it and stuff doesn't really work for me.
It does for me
But
because I
yeah.
don't trust my brain. I mean, I don't trust my memory, and I don't trust everything I see.
Or even your vision, yeah.
Yeah. So if I trusted everything I saw and I thought I had a perfect memory, then I would probably be less inclined to say I don't think that it could be a trick of the mind. But I've seen people. Man, we had a woman that called up here and said that God cured her breast cancer. When we investigated, like talked to her more deeply about it, she had a lump in her breast and the lump went away. She never even went to a doctor. And she's running around telling people God cured her breast cancer, right? I mean, this is people aren't always skeptical, and sometimes you hear these stories. Like somebody sent me to a video the other day. Like they emailed and they were like, "How do you debunk this?" And it was a story, like some story about some guy that died in a Buddhist monastery and was dead for 3 days, and he came back to life, and he's going on and on. And then you come to find out that the guy telling the story in the video isn't even the guy it happened to, and that he can't even confirm that that guy exists. That the guy, apparently, he's like, some people are saying that he still is in some monastery and such, we couldn't find him. And I'm like, well, then how do you know that he's even real? I mean, you can't even get the person who you claim this happened to talk to you about it. You haven't verified any of it. So I just wrote the guy back and I'm like, debunk what? This is just a story. At a certain point, and when I look at these things, it's like people are like, how do you explain that? Well, these stories in people's heads get changed. And when
magnified.
Whenever I've dealt with debunking a story like that, it's so interesting. They'll tell a story and then you start pointing out the flaws, and then all of a sudden I've had people that will tell me by the time I'm done questioning them, they have got this like second by second recollection of an event that occurred for 3 hours on like a Tuesday when they were 6 years old. And I mean, I'm sitting there going, you put way too much stock in your memory, and there is no way that you remember to this level of detail. No one does. So the memories get bolstered when people go back to reach for it and retell it.
Yeah, I like to think that's true because I don't want to believe in them. I know some people want to.
Yeah.
I'd like to believe in alien abduction. That would be super cool, but I don't want to believe in ghosts. That's really scary.
It depends on what the aliens are doing.
Yeah.
But I think that for me, if something weird happened, right, inexplicable, all I could say is something weird and inexplicable happened. Assigning it a cause when you can't investigate that cause is premature.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing that's ever although as I say, a lot of people here seem to have a ghost story, and I don't know if it's a cultural thing or if it's because the houses are so old. And I mean, my school was haunted, my library was haunted, my friends' houses were haunted, the place I volunteered was haunted. It's everywhere. So you can't
there's
really
all
escape
these
it.
ghosts. Why isn't there then huge amounts of evidence?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. Right? It's like a billion people seeing Bigfoot and we can't find a body. Why? Right? I don't know. But I mean, I have my thoughts on it. I got my own ideas about why we're not finding a Bigfoot and why we don't have evidence of a ghost yet. I mean, look how many centuries we have talked about ghosts in Western civilization, and we still don't have a shred of evidence that they really exist.
Yeah.
What does that tell you?
That's what I have to tell. The thing that scares me the most is well, I know it is stupid, but like, I looked up haunted dolls once. Oh, they're so creepy. Dolls are creepy enough anyway.
Haunted what?
But haunted dolls.
Bells?
Like a bell that you ring?
No, dolls.
Dolls!
Oh, dolls.
Well, dolls
Sorry.
are creepy anyway. They're like clowns. Yeah.
And you can buy these things. There are people on the internet selling dolls. They just have whole websites where they just sell dolls that they say are haunted.
Okay.
And I one of my friend's house whose whole family thought their house was haunted. They had a whole bunch of dolls in their living room, and I really freaked myself out at one point because I was looking at this doll and I was thinking, I was thinking, okay, if there's someone in there, blink at me, and I thought I saw it blink at me, and now I'm too scared to, like, I would never sleep in his living room again, just in case,
Aw.
like.
See, I don't know.
No, it's stupid. I know it's stupid, but
Well,
that's how.
but you know
that's how
what? And this goes back to about people being suggestible. If they had never told you their house was haunted, the fact that they did predisposed you to be, maybe a lot more sensitive to what you were looking at and looking for something weird to happen. Whereas if they hadn't mentioned that at all, you probably wouldn't give the dolls a second look.
Yeah.
And I think haunted houses work the same way. People say this house is haunted, so you're going to be listening for any little strange noise you might hear, and then if you hear something, oh well, it's haunted. I heard it.
And the other thing is, how do we get that haunted dolls blink? Right? Like, how do we get
Oh, I
that?
saw there was a video where one seemed to blink on YouTube.
Because somebody told you that haunted dolls blink, so this haunted doll, yeah, then that's the thing. It's like, this is where we get these metrics from other stories. Like, we don't really know what a haunted doll would do. Somebody else said a haunted doll would blink. I don't know. Does it, or does it talk? Does it, whatever? Does it move from room to room?
Not because I thought it was really. I like looking at these things to be scared, like a horror film. I like looking at them because they scare me. But then afterwards, when I actually go to sleep, then when I actually go to bed and it's dark, then it actually starts to feel a bit more real. Like it's not just funny.
Can I ask about how old you are?
27.
Oh, okay. Do you?
Probably sound younger. And,
you live on your own?
Sorry?
Do you live on your own?
No, luckily no. But that's one of the things that worries me. When I do move out, it will probably be in a very old apartment, and I'm scared.
Are you living with your parents still? Are you living with your parents still?
Yeah.
I'll tell you, the cure for being afraid of haunted dolls and ghosts in your life is when you move out and you have to pay a mortgage and you have to pay your own electric bill and all that crap becomes so scarier than a haunted doll. And so what happened to me was, I'm kind of like, you know what, if I'm going to be walking through the house and I'm going to encounter like a demon, whatever, I don't have to pay the mortgage if it kills me. Because to me, the pressure of real life tends to kind of suck the fear of the supernatural right out of you.
I hope so. Yeah, maybe that will happen.
If you ever have to deal, for example, and I'm not wishing this on anybody, but like my ex-husband went through like a bout of cancer, and if you ever have to go through cancer, demons aren't going to look so bad. They're not going to look so tough.
Yeah.
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 Things,
well, I don't. It's true. I don't think about this stuff when something bad actually is happening.
There you go. Because it's bigger. Real life is bigger. It's bigger and badder than the supernatural, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Well, and I used to do that, especially when I was a little kid. I would have to sleep with my closet door closed because in the dark the clothes make shapes that kind of like your shadow in your backyard.
Plus you can hear when the monster opens the door. At least you get the heads up. Whereas left open, they just creep right out.
Yeah.
As I say, I live in that kind of town, and I work in London, which obviously, because it's crowded with people, it doesn't feel that haunted in the day, but supposedly it's full of dead people because of like the wars and stuff. And
I see dead people. They're everywhere. All right. Well, I'm going to let you go, Elizabeth. It was a fun call, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much for calling.
Talking to me.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, bye.
Okay, so I'm okay staying.